This is the Louie Tee Network.
Who else could it be but me, Louie T. Welcome. You are here on lockdown coverage. Week number 4 in the National Football League getting kicked off nice and early. London International Series. Indianapolis Colts taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars playing another home game over in London and are slated to do so until 2020. So get used to seeing the Jacksonville Jaguars on your television screen early at some part of the season over in London. They've done their duty for this year, and for the second consecutive year, they've come out with the W. We'll talk about how that was achieved here in a second, but first and foremost, if you are watching this, welcome. You are here on the Louie Tee Network with your man Louie T on lockdown coverage, and if this is your first time here, subscribe to the channel Louie Tee Network for more great content in 2016 and beyond. Also, I'm on Twitter. @InTheLabRoom is the Twitter handle. Be sure to follow me on Twitter for more updates and different things going on and just some great tweets as well. And also, I'm on Facebook. In the Lab Room is the Facebook page. Go ahead and give me a like. Again, for more updates and other things that are happening, check the Facebook page. So again, like that page and subscribe to the Louie Tee Network. So we got week 4 in the National Football League kicked off with a rather entertaining game. It started out a little slow, had a lot of penalties, but at the end of the day, the game ended up being rather entertaining, especially the end of this ball game. Let's get to what I like to do, likes, dislikes, banana in the tailpipe, to break down this football game. And the assumption was, going into this game, if the Jacksonville Jaguars lost and dropped to 0-4 in the season, it might have been a question of whether you were going to see Gus Bradley come back with his job or not. Now, after winning this game, the question now turns to, is Chuck Pagano now all of a sudden on the hot seat? No one anticipated the Indianapolis Colts starting out the season 1-3 and losing to the Jacksonville Jaguars to drop them to 1-3 on the season. Now the question becomes, is he the guy that could potentially lose his job over this bye week? We will see. But let's jump into likes, dislikes, banana in the tailpipe. Andrew Luck's legs in the first half was on my likes list. I thought he used his legs well, got down, didn't put himself in harm's way, but kept them in a nice and manageable down and distance. They didn't convert very often, and we'll talk why they didn't convert early in that first half of this game. But Andrew Luck did his part, especially behind a very porous offensive line that featured 3 rookies from the center over to the right side of that offensive line. So there were a lot of issues. And really, to be honest with you, a lot of the issues are still coming from the left side of the offensive line, if you can believe that or not. So despite, and primarily Anthony Costanzo continues to struggle, I think, at left tackle to me. But bottom line, Andrew Luck used his legs well in this football game, especially in the first half. I thought he could have used his legs a little bit later on in the game in a critical situation when he decided not to. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But his legs, to me, were the reason why the Colts were able to get some points on the scoreboard in the first half of this game. Speaking of which, Adam Vinatieri was the lone source of points in the first half of the Colts. 2 53-yard field goals in the first half of this game. Vinatieri continues to be an Iron Man. And again, this guy's an ageless wonder, banging home a couple of 50-yarders in the first half. He just seems to be automatic, even at his ripe old age. Adam Vinatieri, still one of the best kickers in this league. You go to the first half likes for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Dante Fowler Jr. batting a ball in the air, and it's getting picked off by Yannick Ngakoue. Huge play by the Jacksonville Jaguars early in this ball game to give them some great field position that they would capitalize off, which is my next like. Capitalizing off of that interception. In past weeks, we've seen the Jaguars get turnovers but not take advantage of those turnovers, mainly last week versus the Baltimore Ravens. This was a situation where they got the turnover, and not only did they get the turnover, they turned it into a touchdown, and that's huge. If you want to win games, you got to take turnovers, especially ones that give you the football deep in the opposition's territory, gives you some great field position. You need to take advantage. They did that here with the AR-15 TD to give them the 7-0 lead early in this ball game. Yannick Ngakoue is the next like on my list. This is a guy that I did not expect a lot of out of him in this rookie season. I just didn't. I thought that the guy that you would see a lot more from a pass rushing standpoint would be Dante Fowler Jr., second-year guy coming off of an injury. That was going to be the guy that was going to provide you with that. Maybe your first-round pick, or maybe somebody else would be delivering that for you. I was thinking it was going to be Dante Fowler Jr., your first-round pick from last season. Maybe even Miles Jack if he gets a chance to blitz. And we finally saw Miles Jack in the starting lineup in this game due to an injury. Good to see him out there, and he made a couple of plays. But I didn't expect Yannick Ngakoue to be the guy. And he stepped up. He's been the most consistent pass rusher this team has had, and by far and away the best that they've got on this team. And he's a guy that seems to be an impact player right away. Got a sack in this game. Also got the interception on the batted ball. So Ngakoue continuing to have his presence felt on this Jaguars defense. Next on my likes list in the first half, Blake B's legs. I talked about Andrew Luck using his legs. What about Blake Bortles using his legs in this football game and giving the Jaguars a chance early in this ball game? I thought his legs were impactful, and a lot of times when he gets into trouble, it's because he doesn't use his legs. This is a guy that's athletic. He can move. He can run. I'd like to see Blake use his legs a little bit more and not stand in the pocket like a statue and not force the football and turn it over because he's trying to cram it into a tight, congested area. Run. Use your legs. You're an athletic guy. You're a big guy. Use your legs, and I thought he did that in the first half. And then the field goal before half, Jason Myers was tremendous, and then we'll talk about him a little bit later on. He was tremendous in this game. Thought that field goal before halftime was critical, and look, you win this game by 3 points. That field goal before the half, Jags teams that I've seen in the past would have sat on this lead. They were comfortable. They felt good about what they had done in the first half. They would have went to the halftime break and been comfortable being up the score that they were up. I think it was 17-6 at the time. They would have been more than comfortable going to the halftime break up 17-6. Instead, they moved the football and put another field goal on the scoreboard. And that's the way you need to be aggressive, especially when you're 0-3 on the season. You need to be aggressive and take advantage of every opportunity, every possession that you get. Jags did that, came away with a field goal to end the first half. Let's get to the dislikes in the first half. And we start with the Colts. The drops were ridiculous for the Colts in the first half of this game. First possession of the game, third down, Josh Ferguson out of the backfield. And I think he has suspect hands. I saw him with a huge drop late in the game versus San Diego last week that could have cost them. Luckily enough, a few plays later, you get the big T.Y. Hilton touchdown to win that game. Drops it on third down on the first possession in this game. Just simply taking his eyes off the football. Catch the football. That would have been a first down. He had nothing but space in front of him to pick up the first down. Again, when you're struggling like the Colts are and you're 1-2 in the season, you need to convert. And I thought they had issues converting on third downs on both sides of the field. Converting and stopping the Jags from converting on third downs. Dwayne Allen on the very next drive with a drop on third down. Or his was a second down drop, but just as impactful. His was a huge chunk play, would have picked them up a first down, maybe gave this offense a little bit of momentum and gave them a chance to get into a little bit of a rhythm. Drops the football. You had Chester Rogers drop. Then you have a Dorsett drop. They struggled catching the football in the first half of this game. The Dorsett drop was a little tough. He should have caught that football, though. You got to help Andrew Luck. He can't do it by himself. Guys have to make plays, and they weren't doing that in the first half of this game. Of course, the next dislike, the Andrew Luck interception. You hate to see it happen, especially on a batted ball, but it happened, and that resulted in the Jaguars being able to drive it and get into the end zone. So those are the type of plays you can't have if you're the Indianapolis Colts. That was a huge play in this game early on. Pass interference on Patrick Robinson, helping the Jaguars get down the field and get some points. And then you had a drive at the end of the first half that the Jaguars were able to convert into a field goal. Personal foul penalty on T.J. Green. Then you had a pass interference on Cromartie and a holding penalty on Cromartie, all on the same possession, which allowed Jacksonville to get down into field goal range and get 3 points before the half. Huge penalties on the Colts to end the half to give Jacksonville some great opportunities to get on the scoreboard. And again, in a game you lose by 3, can't give up those types of opportunities. Colts helped them out on that final possession of the first half, allowing them to get into Jason Myers' field goal range. Dislikes for the Jags in the first half. AR-15 with a drop touchdown. You just want to see Allen Robinson catch the football there on a comeback in the end zone. Great throw by Blake Bortles, right in the hands. He dropped it, but it doesn't matter. A couple plays later, they get in the end zone anyway. So no harm, no foul, but you need to see AR-15 catch that football and get the touchdown. It would have been his second of the day. Injuries to Luke Joeckel, his knee did not return in this game. Mercedes Lewis, his hip, he did not return in this game. So a couple of injuries there for the Jaguars. Hopefully those guys aren't out for any extended period of time. And this bye week probably will be what the doctor ordered for both of these guys as they look to get back onto the field. You go to the likes for the Colts in the second half of this game. Thought Frank Gore was stellar. Didn't hit 100 yards, and I was shocked to find out that the Colts haven't had a 100-yard rusher in a game since 2012. Vic Ballard versus the Texans in like week 15 of 2012. That is amazing. That is mind-boggling that you can go that long without having a guy put up 100 yards in a game. But it's just how this Colts offense operates. And when you don't have great play up front from your offensive line, generally it's going to be hard to run the football. But I thought Gore ran the football well, caught it out of the backfield. He's Frank Gore, okay? And he still plays like Frank Gore, which is amazing. Again, at his age, you expected a huge drop-off. If this line were better, Frank Gore would be a guy that could easily go over 1,000 yards with the way he's still running the football. Low to the ground, seeking out contact, running through contact. Frank Gore is still Frank Gore, and he looked good in this game. Scoring touchdowns in the fourth quarter to give the Colts a chance is the next thing on my likes list. 3 touchdown scores by the Colts in the fourth quarter to give themselves a chance in a ball game that they looked like they were out of just going into the fourth quarter. This game looked like it was done. The Jags had a commanding lead, and the Colts found a way to make this a ball game. So credit must be given to the Indianapolis Colts for making this a ball game and coming back, and those 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter were huge. You get Philip Dorsett on the 64-yard touchdown late to give them an opportunity to try to steal this game away from the Jaguars. Huge play by Philip Dorsett. Just an ugly bust in coverage by the Jags. But nonetheless, Colts still needed to make it happen, and they did, giving themselves a chance at 27-30 late in this ball game. You go to the Jacksonville Jaguars, second half likes. 4th and 3 conversion to Yeldon. I thought that was a huge play, picking up the first down. It led to points. Again, anytime you can get points on the scoreboard, and that's a momentous type of play. You pick up a 4th down, you convert it, and you get points out of it. That's a huge play, big play for the Jags there as Yeldon was able to catch it. It was a pass that was behind him and then leap over a defender that would have kept him short of the sticks and then gets the first down. Jason Myers, give some credit to the field goal kicker in this game, banging home field goals that allowed the Jaguars to win this football game. 3 Jason Myers field goals in this game. Jason Myers was clutch, got it done, made all of his extra points. You know, every single point counts, and Jason Myers was stellar in this football game, helping the Jaguars get their first victory of the season. Jags rushing attack, I thought that was impressive. Blake Bortles using his legs. I thought T.J. Yeldon had one of his better performances of the season thus far. And then Chris Ivory sprinkled in a little bit of production as well. So I thought the Jags on the ground did some good things, especially in the first 3 quarters of the game. I didn't think they were as impressive in the fourth quarter running the football. But the first 3 quarters, I thought they did a really good job of rushing the football. Jags rushing attack, I thought, was a huge catalyst in them winning this football game because it allowed them to take pressure off of Blake Bortles, not have him throw it a bunch of times. He didn't throw it 40-some-odd times in this game. You don't want Blake Bortles throwing the football 40-plus times. If he's doing that, that means the Jags are either behind or they're desperate. And either one of those situations is usually going to lead to Blake Bortles turning the football over. You keep him under 40 attempts, and really that number should be anywhere from 30 to 25 to 32 attempts for Blake Bortles in any given game. He threw it, I believe, 33 times in this game. That's not bad, and that's why you didn't have a turnover. They weren't behind. He didn't have to force it. Thought he did a good job of using his legs, and that's part of that Jags rushing attack. Allen Hurns' 42-yard touchdown. This was a huge touchdown because the Colts were on a run. they were making plays. You felt good about what was going on. If you were the Colts, you felt like we're going to come back and take this game. And that 42-yard touchdown to Allen Hurns really swung the momentum back in the favor of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And it was one of those moments where you felt like, okay, the Jags are about to lose. And once they got that touchdown, I think the Jags and their sidelines took a deep sigh of relief, a deep breath, and they just exhaled and said, all right, we're good, we got this. We can win this game. Without this touchdown, I think they find a way to lose this game, but that touchdown gave them the confidence to go ahead and win this football game. I thought that was a huge play by the Jags offense because they were struggling and the Colts had all the momentum in this game. That touchdown swung the momentum back into their favor. Let's go to the dislikes in the second half. Kurt Magette with a late hit penalty on Blake Bortles. It was late. I didn't necessarily like the call, but it was late and it was unnecessary. But I saw it coming because Blake was fighting, and those guys were hustling, trying to get to the quarterback. And once he went down, they were already in heavy pursuit. You could have called it on one of three guys. I think Kurt Magette just got there first and got there the hardest, so he got the penalty. Third down defense for me in this game. I thought the Colts struggled all afternoon long with third down defense. I just felt like the Jags, especially in the first three quarters, just continued to convert on third downs, eat up a bunch of clock, keep Andrew Luck and that offense off the field, and they were ending their possessions in points. Not necessarily touchdowns, but just getting points on the scoreboard. A lot of that is due to this Colts defense failing to get off the field on third downs. They did get off the field on a couple of clutch third downs late in the game to give the Colts a chance, but all in all, I thought they struggled on the day getting off the field on third downs. And that 42-yard touchdown given up to Allen Hurns is the last dislike on my list. You got all the momentum in the world. You can't give that up there. If anything, you surrender a field goal in that situation, force them to kick that, and give your team a chance to steal this game 27-26. Instead, you give up the touchdown. You end up losing this football game 30-27. Defense let them down yet again in this game. Jaguars second half dislikes. Pass interference penalties were rampant in the second half, and the Jags as a team were horrible with penalties. Over 170 yards in penalties in this game for the Jags. If they eliminate those penalties, I don't know if this game is as close as it was. A lot of the Colts' offensive scores early in this game came off of penalties, not because the Colts were driving the football and being aggressive, but because the Jags were making mistakes, and those mistakes started to catch up with them in the second half of this game. You got Jonathan Cyprien on a pass interference. You got Devon House on a couple of pass interference calls. The penalties were out of control for the Jags in this game. They need to clean that up if they're going to win more games this season. And giving up the big ball late. Look, you get the touchdown by Allen Hurns to give you the 10-point lead and give you a little bit of breathing space, and you give it right back to Dorsett on a 64-yard touchdown. That can't happen. That's how you lose football games. And Luck had the football late with a chance to win. The defense did step up and get a stop. Huge play by Josh Johnson on the knockaway. Give him some credit. That was a football that would have been caught if he didn't make the play that he did. But nonetheless, cannot give up that 64-yard quick strike touchdown after you've wrestled the momentum back in this football game. Could have cost you long term. Luckily, it did not, and you were able to hold on 30-27 for your first victory of the season. Let's get to any of the comments that you guys may have and see what you guys are saying before we get out of here. First name, last name, who you got, Ravens or Raiders? I made my picks already. If you want to see my picks, you need to go watch the video, my Louie Tee live video from Wednesday. All right, so that looks like it's it. Really appreciate you guys chiming in and tuning in to the breakdown. Jags get their first win of the season. It's a big win for them. The first is always the hardest to get. Jags finally got that out of the way. Maybe they can build this into some confidence that can maybe parlay itself into some victories. They got to find a way to continue to be consistent and find ways to win games and not find ways to lose them. For the Colts, this season has really taken a turn for the worse. Now they're 1-3 on the season. Now a lot of questions are being asked. The question now becomes, are they going to be able to keep things together in Indianapolis good enough so that we don't see a bunch of firings taking place throughout the course of the season? Because at 1-3 now, you're starting to question this Colts team. They're in last place in their division. They're struggling to find ways to get teams off the field on defense. Offensively, they've got a lot of issues up front with the offensive line. They can't find ways to be consistent there either. This is a team that needs to find ways to get things in order, and it starts at the top with this Colts organization. I thought that they should have made some changes. Last offseason, they didn't. Now you're starting to see it trickle down onto the field. This is a team right now struggling at 1-3, losing to the Jacksonville Jaguars in London. Golden opportunity to get back to 500 on the season. They failed to do so. Now there are a bunch of questions looming in Indianapolis as they're now 1-3 on the season. That's going to do it for your man Louie T here on Lockdown Coverage. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. Got plenty of breakdowns throughout the course of the day. Enjoy your 1 o'clock football. You know I will. I'll be back with some breakdowns after those games conclude. I will see you a little bit later on